Greetings to you, our dear viewer. I hope you've had a wonderful day. It is a beautiful Thursday, and I hope you have been having a wonderful day throughout. My name is Luke Majumba Alnetre, and I'm sitting in for Edwin Austin Mukala's Salongo, who is not here today, but hopefully next week he will be here with us. Well, it is a Thursday. Well, you know that we'll be discussing leadership and governance here in Family Hour. But specifically, what do we delve in today? We're going to be discussing leadership trends in this era. This era, I mean the current years, the current generation right now. But it is not me to delve out all this. I have a very special person who is always here, by the way, the Diocese Chancellor Kampala Diocese, Angwech, here with us to tell us what has changed or what is it like to be in leadership right now. Well, it is a pleasure for me to introduce her to you. Good evening, Madam.
Good evening, Luke. It's good to be here. Good evening, viewers. It's always a pleasure to be here. I did not know Edwin was a Salongo.
Really?
Today's the first time I'm finding out that.
He must be a good secret keeper.
He is, clearly. I should take him up on that. Yeah, but it's good to be here.
Well, thank you. You're most welcome. So we are discussing leadership in leadership trends, majorly in this era. And I want to start by posing a question. What is the leadership like in 2024?
Leadership has changed over the years, and 2024 is not different from many other years we have had. The only thing is we are going to a season post-COVID, and post-COVID introduces a lot of different things for us, both as a nation and as a generation, as well as the world as a whole. I think the trends that you are going to see and were anticipated in this particular year are things such as well-being of the staff or employees. So when we speak about well-being, you know that many employers, depending on what leadership style you take, never think about the well-being of the employees. But now that we have gone past COVID, we have had a COVID era, and in Uganda, as you can see, economic hardship is biting on everybody. The strikes as of now. Yesterday, we couldn't get the bare minimum from certain places that we get every day. And so the employees are being stressed beyond their capacity, which introduces the concept of mental health. Because mental health has to be central to us as human beings for us to work and produce the kind of quality work that anybody would expect. So what you're seeing right now is that most employers are getting more interested in what you call the mental health. They are trying to come up with things that can help the staff. People are working remotely. After COVID, you saw that many people reduced their office space. They actually gave employees who did not necessarily have to be on call daily. They gave them an opportunity to work certain days at home. So you have big companies such as MTN and many others where a number of staff are required to work from home at particular days, while other days they are required to work from the office. Now that presents a mental health challenge, because how do you as a leader now begin to understand the well-being of your staff? And that's a key point that is a trend in this year, because people are experiencing immense pressure. Currently, as you see this week where we've had strikes, you can imagine what, for people who are employed, it's a cash economy that we live in. An economy where people make cash every day. The money they get that day is the money they either reinvest or they're going to spend on their meal. So something like that would make someone stressed if a business is closed for 7 days. And so what would that person now do? Their mental health begins to suffer. You saw, or you have heard stories where people commit suicide because they're unable to provide for their families. It's a critical question for employers these days. It's now moving from where the employer says, deal with your personal business at home, do not bring your problems to the workplace, because whatever is not set in the workplace presents a problem at home. When there is stress at home, people are going to bring that stress to work. And so the employers are shifting their mindset, leaders are shifting their mindset, where they are no longer thinking about just the staff and their production process. They are saying, how do we cater for the well-being of our staff? And that is an interesting leadership trend and a shift. Particularly in Africa, it's going to take a lot, because if you see the studies in America, I think there was a possibility of 38% layoffs for the year. In Uganda, in talking to about 10 people, about four people since last year have left their workspaces and have come into an economy where we have economic hardships and things are biting down on people. And so what does the employer now do? How do you keep the staff engaged? How do you cater for their well-being? That's one of the leadership trends that is shaping the nation at this time. The other, which is quite interesting, especially for the younger generation, is the AI. The trend of AI. I think GPT is the one that just put that into reality. You'll see that many people now write essays using ChatGPT. I did a Zoom meeting sometime earlier on this year, and I pressed. You know, when things pop up, you just keep pressing buttons because you want everything to clear your screen. So that's what I did. I pressed, and I did not know I had pressed to allow AI to record the meeting. And so when we were done with the meeting, we had closed the meeting. We usually have an extended discussion, especially as leaders after. So we had an extended discussion after the meeting. And as soon as we closed, I shut down. My email immediately recorded the minutes. And as I read the minutes, it was a discussion that we had had. And a lot of what we had said as leaders was private. It concerned our private lives. For a minute there, I freaked out. I said, who recorded this? And it was word for word. The only thing that it couldn't tell was the genders, depending on who was speaking, because some people register with their husband's name, so it was calling them Mr. And so it's interesting to see that this is a trend, especially in the market space. And leaders would be unfortunate if they denied that this is happening, because people are submitting essays, people are submitting work applications using these particular platforms, and the English is amazing. As you look at it, you're impressed by it. When you meet the person, it may not necessarily be the same impression that you have. And so with the boost of AI and technology, leaders have got to adopt in this time. They have got to adopt what works for you. Is it time to have online meetings as opposed to seeing people physically every day? Sometimes we want meetings to be at a particular time and everybody has to be present. And yet, people have, say for example, I have a meeting in town at 7:30 a.m., but the next meeting is 10 a.m. in another, now districts in Uganda are very close, in Wakiso district, so it could be just on the border of Kampala outside. And so I can't make both. Which one can be heard online? And so if you want to boost productivity of your employees, it's time to adopt. It will help you as a leader to understand what is happening, perhaps give you the data that you need, improve productivity and the output of the staff. And this is a trend that you can't afford to miss. I know the challenge is people are afraid that AI or technology is going to render them useless, but it will not eventually, because you still need people to control it depending on the kind of work that you are doing. So that's a leadership trend. The other which will never go out of fashion is emotional intelligence. And I think that we as people don't emphasize that enough, because people develop into adulthood and they don't understand emotional intelligence. They lack the empathy, the compassion, the awareness of other people's situations, such that they can be able to give them what it is that they need. In a time where you're having the biggest workforce become Gen Zs, it is important that you are putting emotional intelligence at the center of what you are doing. Say, for example, we had a discussion. There was a heated discussion in my class group today. Somebody made a comment, in giving an example, they made a comment that in many ways rubbed everyone the wrong way. And in their view, they thought it was something they could say. But when you are one against 200 people and nobody sees what you have done as correct, you must question yourself. You must question what you have done. And so, for me, as that discussion ensued, all I could see was a really lack of emotional intelligence to understand that in group dynamics or in workplace settings, there are certain things you can't do. Have compassion, have empathy, think before you speak, have the human decency to understand that certain things can't work. So you have a new generation which doesn't work the way the older generation works. It's different. Gen Z is different from the millennials, different from the baby boomers, different from the generations that have come before us. And so how does a leader cultivate that? A leader in this time is going to be study to be emotionally intelligent. What you may not have gotten as a younger leader and as someone coming into the space, you need to study. I know that it is hard to study and learn these things, but anything can be learned. And I think that if we give ourselves enough time, we are able to do that. And this is a trend that doesn't go out of style. I don't believe it will ever go out of style, because the more you have emotionally intelligent leaders, the bigger your workforce will come. People become loyal, they become committed to you because they know that they are valued. And every leader that values their staff or values their employees is more likely to retain staff.
Okay. How about those who say they are natural born leaders?
Is there such a thing as natural born leaders? I do think there is, though. I do think there is. There are two schools of thought, but this is my school of thought. They are natural born leaders, and they are also leaders who learn along the way. That the difference is one will have an advantage over the other because certain things will come easier to them. You find that natural born leaders will take to the front much easier than those who have to learn to take to the front. They will find speaking and discussion and narration with people, and especially getting and crafting a vision much easier than those who do not. And so for leaders who are coming up, there are things that you need to learn. Emotional intelligence is something that maybe is really shaped by the places that we are brought up in, but in essence, what can be shaped as a young person, if you are willing, can also be shaped as an adult. So I do think that it's a learning curve for everybody, and every one of us has to sharpen what we know. How I interact with my family, my home, my parents and my siblings cannot be the same way I interact with my classmates and interact in the workspace, interact in the market space, in the church space. There's a certain demeanor that is called. There's a certain way in which I respond and I deal with people that has to differ. It doesn't change me as a person, but it shows that I have enough presence of mind to respect the audience, which I am addressing. And I think that's what differentiates people for leaders.
Okay.
The other, which is without, it can be debated, you have the word equality, diversity, and inclusion, right? So I think you've heard that a lot, equality, diversity, and inclusion. The problem with it is it has been adulterated to add many other things that we don't need to be added. But where you are going, you'll see that more institutions that are looking for business are looking for businesses that are diverse, that are inclusive, and that show equality. So the number of women matters. I think I saw the papers saying the other day. No, actually not the papers. It was something that someone put in their status. It was something in the law that was written that companies are now, I think boards are now required to have at least 28 or 20-something% of women on the boards. Now, that should not be something we still write into the law at this point in time. I was at a board earlier this week and they were introducing us. And the first thing that they said about the board is, we want to say that there are more women on the board than they have been. And it's the aesthetics that people are giving, or the view that people are painting, that women are now coming to the top. The question is, how much are we contributing as women to the top, to the goal, to the vision, to make this actually viable? So inclusion, equality is becoming a thing in this time. Every leader is looking for equality. Everybody that employs now, even as the country, as you look at as a whole, they will say they will look for women, they will look for region, they will look for these things, because equality is a big thing. Inclusion means that you're including everyone. So even if when it comes to things that are boards nowadays, they are not going to look for just particularly. When they're going to say we just want Protestants, we want Catholics, we want Pentecostals, we want Muslims, you're going to see that they're going to go across the board. Yes. More likely than not, they're going to include every single person, because inclusion has become the thing. The idea is that when you have different perspectives coming to the table, then you're able to have a more balanced view. Everybody feels feels represented. When the president is appointing people, there is a balance. There is not just balance of regions, sometimes there's balance of faiths, because it's central to us as a country. Out of the country you'll find that. And then finally diversity in that particular sect. Diversity is how can you get different people involved. So that's a trend that cannot go. And I think lastly is what you call the great negotiation, because there is a transition. We have to admit in this season and time there's a transition in the workforce. Okay. You're having people retiring. The baby boomers are now in retirement. People are getting to their 60s, 70s, and they are retiring. And you have the younger and the biggest market space as the Gen Zs. So people like that are coming to the workspace. How do the older generation now mentor the young? How do they negotiate to find what it is that they want to find? So that's those are the leadership trends that are shaping us as a nation.
Well, I want to first go back to the example you gave us at the start of the current strike that is going on. How challenging is that to the leaders currently?
It depends on which level of leadership you are on, because the president, who for some reason everyone is saying the president, I think is going to have a meeting with them on Friday. He's going to have a meeting with them on Friday. That just shows you the kind of pressure that is on every different leadership. I see the Ministry of Finance yesterday released a statement. He had a discussion with the traders, and he had discussed the things that are for the reasons they are striking. So whether it's IFRIS or it's the percentage of VAT or it's everything that's going on within the strike, all those are being discussed. So the minister also has a certain level of pressure. At this point in time, he needs to figure out how do I get shops open. You see at the end of his statement, he's pleading with them to open their shops because it has an economic bite on everybody. It has an economic bite. You're not just having strikes in Kampala, you're having Jinja, you're having in Masaka, you're having all over the country. You are affecting the market the way it is. You are affecting the GDP. You are affecting how money is turning around. Yet with the high level of inflation we're having today as a country, it's important to know that people can eat at the end of the day. Because if as a leader you don't see the pressure that is being put on you at this point, and you compromise, sit down, have a discussion with these people, understand what it is that they are trying to say, then you are heading for a disaster. You're heading for just peaceful strikes and close of shops to people's demonstrations. And I can see some districts have already begun to demonstrate. Sure. And so that shows you we are going into a full-blown chaos and strike. And a leader at this point in time needs to sit down and say, if people are being affected, and I think why people are being disturbed is that it's not helping that the corruption scandals are going higher. The corruption reporting is going higher. There are a lot of reports of corruption in the parliament, in institutions. So imagine someone, a trader, and me, a trader down in Chikubo. All I have to do is sell hair. And perhaps when I sell my hair today, I'm going to make a profit of 200,000. Yet for you, you make a profit of 400 million in a week. So the difference in the economic gap and the class gaps is widening, especially with this inflation rate. So as a leader, how do you close the gaps? How do you make people understand that we are doing the best we can? To be fair, the economic crisis is all over the world. It's not just Uganda. But as a leader, how do you curb it? How do you save it for the least of the least? And how do you ensure that even those that are safe in a certain class gap are also doing their best? So the recent tax debacle has sparked a lot of debate, has sparked a lot of discussion, and especially us as a country. So I think that I think for leadership at this point in time is to focus on how do you answer the normal man, the common man's problem. How do you make it? How do you make them understand and still give them relief from what is biting them right now?
And maybe to zero it down to the leadership of these traders, because apparently when you move around, they say if I open my shop, our leaders may not be happy. They may, because there is even a threat of stoning them and all that. So do you think this is good leadership for the leaders of the traders?
Well, Well, it's not, but it's the country that we are in is what you have these days. Everything is answered by mob justice. A thief, you'll scream right now on the Kampala road right now, a thief. What will people do? They will react and beat the person.
Sure.
So it's a very difficult time and season. So the leadership, you have to commend them that yesterday they met the minister. They are willing to have discussions. All they have been pushing for is discussions so that they can have a way forward. It's a good place for them to ask for discussions. You also understand that if they left people to do what they wanted,
no results.
There will be no results at the end of the day. So they are mounting pressure on people. The only thing I can say is that the leaders need to do everything to make sure that no life is lost. No life is lost, because if a life is lost, we are all losers. Yeah.
What do you see as most significant challenges leaders are facing today in relation to our topic today?
I think the balance, the changing generation, there's a changing generation. And so balancing the ways of old and coming up and coming to this season where things are changing, it's very difficult. How do you balance the older styles of leadership and still make it relevant to the new style of leadership? With a changing generation, you have to change the way leadership is done. You have to change the way people are responding to workspaces. Does it now work for people to be in at a certain time of work? Do the hours of work count? Are people required to be in the workspace? What do you do to motivate someone that's much younger these days? How do you give bonuses? You people are doing more than one job. They're not just doing your salary paid job. They're going into different areas to earn more money, because the standard of living is difficult for people. So as a leader, how do you get the best out of your employee without castigating them or making them feel suffocated? How do you help them in such a way so that they understand that the best way that they're giving you their best, as well as giving their families their best? I think that transition is what is causing us a bit of problem. I think that is the most critical, of course, minus the AI and technology developments, where you have a country where people are not fast to move. Things slowly turn, things slowly churn. So when you have decision making that's best in certain levels and things don't work as fast as they do, then leadership needs to step up, because technology has come to ease the way we are doing decisions. So embracing something like that is critical. Yet leaders are being slow to change the modus operandi, to change the way things are being done, so that people can all benefit.
And in your view, how do you think these leaders can navigate through these challenges? Briefly.
I think that the best is to create an atmosphere of trust. Create an atmosphere of trust that allows individuals to speak openly their minds. If you create a table where people can negotiate, bring their best to the table, allow you hear, and if you can hear and listen to them, answer their need and their interests, you will do the best in answering their problems.
Oh, wow, very interesting. Leadership trends in this era is what we're discussing here with Diana Angwech, who is the Diocesan Chancellor of the Diocese of Kampala. And of course, I hope you're picking something very, very interesting. Mostly, you, the leader out there. We're going in for a very short break and return instantly.